Hello, we're going to watch Dance Moms, Season 1, Episode 7. This is the first episode that wasn't part of the original 6-episode series, so we have gone from a 6-episode contract to a 6-year contract. And we start at Pyramid.
Girl.
Abby talks about last weekend.
Some of the most prestigious dance studios in the country are there. Tough schools, tough competitors, and you really held your own. You won that victory cup. You killed it. I'm very proud.
Well, that's wonderful. Everyone claps. They're very happy. What a wonderful way to begin Pyramid.
Excellent. I'm very proud of every one of you, and you know I don't say that too often.
That you're proud of them? Maybe you should say it more often. What a nice thing to say.
I also am very proud that all the moms kept their mouths shut and didn't say anything to me.
And we're back. Now it's Pyramid.
See how much nicer it is when everything goes so smoothly? It was wonderful.
Yeah, you could have just left that one part off.
Now, if only the moms could learn to be team players like their daughters, then we'd be in business.
I guess she means Kathy and Kelly, because then we see a flashback clip of their fight, I guess, about the costumes.
I never saw such disorganization in all my life.
Go back to your studio.
You know what? I'm here to stay. So like it.
I don't. Neither does anybody else.
I noticed they specifically left out the part where Kelly says that it's not her disorganization, is it? Now why would production want to exclude that part? And Abby said that none of the moms said anything to her, so whose disorganization was it? Oh well, maybe this week's costumes will be better.
Now, let's talk about this week's competition. We are going to... what?
Abby says that it's at a resort that's all self-contained.
We can't forget anything, so we will have a wardrobe for each day that they are going to be there, just like the old school days, yes?
Ah, here we are. How we get all the luggages that they have to bring that I mentioned in a previous episode. Who decides that they need to bring so much stuff? Well, apparently Abby, because this is going back to the old school days.
And you will pack here in front of me so that I know that you have everything.
Is this weird? Is she gonna look at their underwears and shampoos, or just their dance bag with the shoes? It makes sense that the coach would want to make sure that you bring all of your sports gear.
Let's talk about the board.
Ah yes, now for the pyramid part of Pyramid.
First of all, everybody worked together as a team.
That's wonderful. What a wonderful thing for Abby to say. They had great teamwork. Hooray!
That teamwork is going to help you at nationals. That's what's going to put you over the top. Teamwork and technique. Those are the two things that we're going to concentrate on this week.
Teamwork is very important. I'm glad that Abby is recognizing their teamwork. The girls do work really well together, so it's good to notice that and praise them for it. That's great.
Moms, we're doing another new number. One more costume.
Hooray, a new costume.
This week's group number is entitled Make You Mine. It's a theatrical jazz routine. It's upbeat, it's fun, classic jazz.
All right, well that sounds like fun.
This week, I'm gonna ask you to work harder than you've ever worked before.
Well, they already work pretty hard, so this could be a lot.
We need to show up and walk in there like we own the place.
Well, okay.
And I will give you a pack list for clothes for the trip.
A pack list for clothes? In addition to their costumes?
And I want them dressed a certain way every single day that we are there. Does everyone understand that? Yes?
Saying yes in a situation where no one is allowed to respond, so no one does respond, doesn't mean that they agree with what you just said. Silence is not consent. They're not allowed to talk during Pyramid. It doesn't look like Kathy agrees, but okay. So Abby thanks and dismisses the moms and tells the girls, let's get up, let's go. Then we see some rehearsal with the group. Watch Abby interacting with Maddie and the way that Brooke is looking at Abby.
Abs, stronger arm, stronger arm, stronger arm. Pause it.
So first Abby touched Maddie's abs, which is a little inappropriate. There's no reason to touch her abs. And then Abby hits Maddie's arm 4 times. Is this appropriate? Is this how dance coaches coach? Telling her to have stronger arms while hitting her arm? I don't know if this is instructional. And Brooke is looking at Abby like, why are you hitting Maddie? Did this exchange really teach Maddie how to have stronger arms? Or did it teach her that it's okay for her dance teacher to hit her? Well, let's go upstairs to the moms.
Vivi and Mackenzie were still on the bottom of the board.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all because they were in the team that won.
Well, that's true. Vivi and Kenzie were in the group dance, kind of, and it won. But they were all in the group dance, so how would that go? They should all be at the top of the pyramid? Because the group won, and they were all in it.
Regardless of what they did, they contributed.
I didn't even think about
and
that.
I thought that that was really stinky.
Well, they were all in the group dance, and Vivi and Kenzie arguably did less than the other girls. So who should be at the top? The pyramid is just great. I do like how Christi was understanding of this. She wasn't like, well, Chloe. Nor did Kelly or Holly, because they agree that Vivi and Kenzie could have been at the top. Or because, like I said in the first episode, that the pyramid idea would work better, in my opinion, if it was spread around. Like this week, let's say Vivi could be at the top, because she did great with the swing, or something. I think the other moms, well, Christi, Kelly, and Holly, would support this way of doing it.
They should have put the babies on the top.
Who should have put the babies on the top? They. Who's they? I thought Abby decides the pyramid placement. Who's they? Gianna? I don't think so. Was that a fourth wall break, or just a misspeak?
I mean,
It
not
should
the
have
babies,
been, I
but
mean, it's like, God, don't ever give anybody just a little
that's why
inch.
Mackenzie doesn't want to dance anymore. She's like, it's always all about all the other girls and, you know.
Well, they're not babies, but they are kind of significantly younger than the other girls. But what is being said is important. Kathy is saying that they, whoever they is, doesn't give anyone any, praise, I guess. Any kind of celebration of good performance. And Melissa is saying that Kenzie is feeling like she doesn't get as much attention as the older girls, and it's causing her to not even want to dance anymore. Now watch Abby interact with Nia.
Ribs are open, derriere's out. Tighten it, no squishy.
Well, at least she didn't hit Nia, I guess, but that's a lot of touching. Is this normal? This is better than what we saw of Abby with Maddie, but it's still a bit squeamy.
And I just hope that you guys are prepared with a costume and that you guys stop sharing costumes.
They would love to have costumes before the day of the competition. I think it's pretty obvious that last week's issue was not the mom's fault, but I agree with the idea that they shouldn't have to share costumes on the day of competition. The costumes should be decided, prepared, and ready at least the day before the competition.
Because, yeah, there is so much of teamwork, but it's ridiculous when you're looking at a 6-year-old and you're 13 to cram into her costume.
Whoa, Kathy, are you calling Brooke fat? Just kidding. Yeah, that is a little strange. It actually shows, how little material is used for the costumes if a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old could fit in the same costume, right? I agree that's a little uncool. It is ridiculous. And let's not forget our behind-the-scenes info that Kelly had an extra costume for Brooke, but Maddie wore it for her solo, so Brooke couldn't wear her own costume, or the one that was given to her with the stickers. I like how Kelly hasn't said anything, because she agrees, they all agree, that this was ridiculous.
No offense to you, because you were only doing what she told you to do, but I paid for the costume, and I didn't like it.
That's completely fair. You especially shouldn't have to share a costume that you paid for. No one disagrees with that. Kathy's tone is ready for a fight, but there's no fight here. We all agree. The only thing that was really wrong was Kathy deciding that Brooke couldn't wear Vivi's costume 3 minutes before she went on stage. And then Brooke got 6th place because her solo was called Supermodel and she was wearing a crop top and booty shorts, which is why costumes should be decided before the day of.
So I think that for now, It's over and done with, and we need to move forward.
Yeah, okay, we can move on.
Kathy is acting like a bitch, and she was way out of line whenever she came up to me 3 numbers before Brooke went on stage and took her costume off of her body.
Well, to be fair, no one actually took the costume off of her body. Brooke did that herself, I hope. But it was a little out of line. It was very last minute. The whole thing was kind of a hot mess.
But my advice as a dance teacher, you moms need to step up and make sure that she's on top of things with your costumes.
Well, that would be great if the dance teacher was on top of things like costumes and music and rehearsal time. All those things. That would be great. Let's do that.
Vivi's very young, and you're new, so you're kind of still in that honeymoon period, so she may not take it out, but give her some time, then she'll start taking out her frustrations on you, on your daughter.
This shouldn't be a sentence. A teacher should not take anything out on a student, but especially something regarding the student's parent. The child has nothing to do with how the teacher feels about the parent. They are not their parents. They are themselves, and they should all be treated well. Nothing should be taken out on a child. If the adult can't manage their own issues, then maybe they shouldn't be a teacher, or maybe they should teach adults.
Well, all I'm gonna do is flash her a couple dead presidents.
This should also not be a sentence. Flashing dead presidents, or money, as it were, is considered a bribe. A parent should not have to bribe a teacher for anything, but especially not to not have the teacher take frustrations out on a child.
Hopefully that'll work.
That'll settle her. That'll let her blood pressure right down.
Right now, some dead presidents. That'll help her.
Melissa said that'll help her, right? Does she mean money will help Abby? Or money will help Vivi? This conversation is really not okay, but I guess it's a little funny. Now it's the next day. It's 4 days till competition, and we go to Maddie's solo rehearsal.
All right, now remember, you're an angel. So you need to be pretty and beautiful with beautiful feet, not Fred Flintstone flat feet. Got it?
Oh no, not a Warner Brothers reference. That's a good explanation, I guess, of what Maddie is supposed to portray. And Maddie seems to understand, so I guess that's good. Is beautiful feet a technical term?
Maddie is doing a breathtakingly gorgeous lyrical routine. It's entitled Angel, and she wears a stunning white costume.
Oh, so the costume is already decided on Tuesday. That's great. We see Maddie rehearsing the solo. It seems as though Maddie already knows this routine. She's doing it on her own, and Abby's watching from her spot. We don't really see Abby giving Maddie choreography. She already knows it. So that's good. She'll have lots of time to clean and perfect it.
I'm doing this dance called Angel for my grandmother Bobcha.
So I looked up how to spell Bobcha, and it knew that I meant Maddie's grandma, which is interesting. And one of the things that popped up is that Maddie and Melissa were featured on an episode of Hollywood Medium where they received a message from Bobcha. So that's a thing that happened to Maddie.
And I hope that she is proud, and I know that she is watching me from heaven.
This feels like a lot of additional pressure on Maddie to perform a gorgeous lyrical piece dedicated to her grandmother, whom she never met and who's watching her from heaven. And also she has to win, of course.
You know that song, Angels, for my mom?
I know, Maddie was telling me.
And she's so excited about it.
Is she? I'm not sure excited is the word that Maddie feels about this solo. We hear from Melissa that her mom was diagnosed with cancer when Melissa was really young, and that her mom meant the world to her. They were really close, just like Melissa and Maddie are. And similar to what I said in the episode that was all about Christi's grandma, I feel like this is a bit exploitative. Like, whose idea was this solo? Did Maddie or Melissa ask for a solo dedicated to Maddie's grandma? Did Abby? Or someone else? I include some of this next scene because there's an important piece of dialogue at the end. So Melissa is saying that the other day she was a little freaked out because she smelled her mom, that she looks at her mom's picture every day when she gets her coffee, and she has a thing with her handwriting on it.
And I don't know, I just miss her so much. I can't stand it.
Like, you think, like, I'm gonna pick up the phone and call them, and you're like...
I still do it. I sometimes say, oh, I have to tell my mom about this, you know? And then I'm like, she's not there.
I can't imagine not having a parent.
I mean, I have nobody.
So Melissa is saying that she has nobody, but she's sitting with two women who are supposed to be her friends, and she's married, but she feels alone. I think this was a genuine statement from Melissa. She really feels like she has nobody. That's really hard, and may explain why she puts up with things from Abby, because Melissa does, at this point, consider Abby her friend, maybe more than the two women she's currently talking to. I wonder what Holly would have said there if she had been in the room for this conversation. But it seems that Maddie's solo is quite special and meaningful to Melissa.
When I look at Maddie, I see my mom, because my mom had the blue eyes that Maddie has. And I always say to her, my mom gave me you. When she left me, she gave me you.
That's a very loving and sweet sentiment to share with Maddie, but it also puts a lot of pressure on her to be a certain way to make her grandma proud. I don't know that all kids could handle that type of pressure. Okay, now we move on to a very important scene related to the one I mentioned last week. So we're in Nia's solo rehearsal.
Chug, 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 and you're moving forward a little bit, but more hips, big. Go.
Abby is up and demonstrating. It seems like she is teaching Nia the choreography, like Nia doesn't know it yet. But it's a good exchange. Abby's modeling and explaining as Nia is dancing.
Nia is doing a character piece entitled La Quifa. It's sassy, it's snap and hip and head pop.
Abby does seem excited about this solo.
Go. See how you're like gonna fall when you finish? I don't want to see that. Do it again. Push. Staggering again. Come on.
So Abby didn't really tell Nia how to not make it look like she's gonna fall. There was no instruction on how to do it correctly. Just, I don't want to see that. Well, if Nia doesn't know how to do it better, how is she supposed to not do it again?
Nia is African American.
Say what?
And I'm trying to teach her different ethnic dances, and I'm trying to train her so that when she is in New York or LA and the casting call says ethnic, she can do all of the dances correctly.
So those words are okay, I guess. I don't know that one student should learn different types of dances by herself. They should all learn different types of dances. But I don't know how casting calls work. Do they really say ethnic? I guess they might. So it sounds like Abby is trying to help prepare Nia for a future in dance, which would be a nice thing to do. Remember also that we know that Holly had some African dance in college and has been trained in actual ethnic dances.
Your abdominal muscles. Engage them. Now march in your own circle. Nose up in the air. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna swing this down 5 and fan kick big, 4 starch flex 7 and 8. Good.
So this definitely looks like Nia is just now learning this routine, but it's going well. Abby is back up and modeling and saying things as Nia is doing them, so that's good. And Abby said good, so Nia got some praise. That's great. But now is the scene that we're going to compare to Maddie's from last week.
Before I start another solo, and before I start yelling about your feet and your legs being sloppy.
I guess maybe this part was filmed before they started learning the solo, because we just saw Nia learning the solo, and Abby wasn't yelling about her feet. Wait, yelling about feet and legs being sloppy is not teaching. That's not instructional. But it is similar to what she said to Maddie about not having Fred Flintstone flat feet. So I guess that's her teaching method.
This is the difference between winning an overall. This is the difference between winning a title. Right here.
The difference between winning a title and not, I guess, is right here. where Abby said yelling about feet and legs being sloppy. Now let's look at the scene with Maddie from last week.
Every week, you have a new routine. Yes? What do you think the judges are looking for?
Technique?
Right. And technique means all the hours you spend in ballet class, every plie, every releve, you need to rely on your technique. Yes? Any questions? No? Anything you want to go over? It's good? Okay. See you on stage.
So Abby explained the word technique to Maddie. Not a great definition, but some examples, and Maddie seemed to understand, and that was good. Now let's see the scene with Nia from this week.
The technique. Explain that word to me. We use it all the time. What does technique mean?
I think it means that
You really don't know. And how many times have you heard it in dance?
1,000 times.
1,000 times. If you were reading a book and they used a word 1,000 times and you didn't understand it, wouldn't you go look up the word?
Yeah.
These two scenes are very different. Maddie got an errorless learning approach, where Abby told her what technique means, kind of. Nia got put on the spot, a sort of Socratic method, and asked to define technique on her own, which she tried to, but then didn't know how to explain it, so she just said she didn't know. Abby did not provide examples. She doesn't really use it in a sentence. Instead, she relates it to not knowing a word in a book and going to look up the word in almost a ridiculing kind of way. It would be good to look up a word that you don't know in a book, but Abby is the dance teacher, and technique here is a dance term. Why do they not already know what it means? Shouldn't they have already had vocabulary lessons on the proper dance terms? Shouldn't Abby explain and provide examples of proper dance terms during rehearsals? So Nia still does not know what technique means after this exchange. Yes, she could go look up the word at home later, but wouldn't it be better if her dance teacher explains it to her? Could not Abby say, Gia, get me my blah blah dance terms book, and look it up with Nia? But instead, Nia still doesn't know what it means. And this right here is the difference between winning a title. It's also interesting that these two scenes were both filmed in not Studio A, where they usually rehearse. It kind of makes me think that these two scenes were filmed on the same day, but Abby's wearing a different shirt, so I guess not. But it kind of sounds like Abby just expected that Nia would just know what Abby had said to Maddie. Also, it's pretty clear that at the end of the exchange with Maddie, that Maddie felt good about herself. She got a high five, she was smiling. Nia, at the end of her exchange, does not look happy and proud. She looks disappointed and scared. These two scenes are very important. They show a very different approach to teaching with different students.
Abby pushes me really hard, but I don't mind because it makes me a better dancer.
Go ahead out on the floor.
We saw Nia say something similar to this in episode 4, that Abby helps her to be a better dancer. Is that what we just saw? The next scene is also a callback to a previous episode. We're back in Studio A, but Abby is holding something that makes me very uncomfortable.
Let me see your best jump.
I know you're teaching until 7:30, but I just wanted to warn you.
It really looks like Abby's holding some type of a lead that appears to be attached to something that's moving. And I know we have an unaired dance where someone portrays a dog. Chat. Help. Abby is not holding a leash attached to a child and asking them to give her their best jump. That's not what's happening, right? I looked it up. According to the Google, yes. Abby was holding a leash for Nia's solo rehearsal La Quifa. Abby uses the leash to instruct Nia to act like a vicious dog breaking free, as part of a character-based routine. There's no good way to view this. Children are not dogs. being a vicious dog on a leash is not ethnic. Also, we know that this character-based piece is based on Shangela Laquifa, who we'll meet in a couple of episodes later, and who has some pretty serious allegations against them. Some of these allegations have been settled, some are still pending. Also, the fact that this rehearsal with the leash was clearly filmed, but strategically cut so that we don't actually see the leash. Because doesn't Abby at some point say that this Laquifa person is a friend of hers? So this idea for this routine was Abby's? But since it was edited to not show the leash, and this episode is presented without the leash, that would indicate that production was not happy about the leash part. I need a break. So Melissa seems unfazed by the leash. Actually, she does seem a little fazed, but she tells Abby that the mom from episode 1, you remember, is here to talk to Abby.
She should be here to pay her bill.
She wanted to speak to you, so.
Okay, I'll be out in a few minutes.
Okay.
We hear Abby talking in an interview about the mom.
She has a lot of nerve showing up at my dance studio after what she pulled the last time she was here. I mean, I can't believe that she has the gall to show her face after the police hauled her out of here.
Well, we didn't see that. We saw a police officer talking to the mom as she was in her vehicle leaving the premises. No one hauled her out, but okay. I guess it's cool to speak inflammatorily. We see some flashback clips of the big fight with this mom.
Every week we put the trash out. Go.
Take yourself out, 'cause you're the biggest piece of trash there is!
Then we see the clip of Abby going into the room where her senior group is warming up to borrow a phone to call the police. We see the mom tell Abby to go for it.
There's a psycho in every batch.
A psycho! Yes! Her name's Abigail Miller!
We see the police arrive and talk to the mom, again already in her car and leaving the parking lot. So scary.
This time I'm prepared. I have 911 on speed dial.
Wonderful. So then there's a commercial break, I guess, and we come back to Melissa walking into Studio A again. This time the footage is a little different. We can kind of see the leash part a little. It does appear to be attached to Nia. I slowed it down a little. Look at Melissa's face. Does she seem bothered by what she's seeing?
I know you're teaching till 7:30, but I just wanted to warn you.
Holding a leash attached to a child is not teaching. We get another flashback clip from episode 1.
Go somewhere else. Take your money. Take your kid. Take your socks.
And find another school. Yes, a school. This is a school where we put leashes on children.
Ah! What choice I made?
It's a little funny. Back to present day.
Have a seat.
I just thought it'd be better if we spoke in person.
I am busy.
Everybody is busy, 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 Ab.
Okay, you never paid for the rest of your solo. I didn't think you would
I'm not
come
gonna
in.
do that.
You tell him.
Okay, well, it needs to be paid. This is your contract.
I
This
understand,
is-
but
this
the
is-
contract was broken.
No.
I'm pretty sure that on Back to the Bar, it is stated that this bill actually was paid. Like already at this moment of filming, it had already been paid. Something about Melissa at the front desk.
When you throw me out and tell me to get out and not come back,
No.
that makes it broken.
No, it doesn't.
You broke the contract. I don't owe you anything.
I feel like those are two separate things that the mom just said. One, that Abby broke the contract, and two, that she doesn't owe Abby anything because it's already been paid. This is kind of a sticky situation legally. I think generally most people would agree that if you get kicked out of somewhere, there's no further anything, unless there was like property damage or something, but nothing like that happened. But then, like, if the mom had paid for the whole year in advance or something, she would expect a refund. But we also don't know what's actually in those contracts.
I'm seeing court. Believe me, I've done it before. And you're gonna have the court costs. You're gonna have my time in there.
Unless I win.
No, I don't think the mom would have to pay pay Abby for her time in court. That's not how court works. Yes, the court costs maybe, but not Abby's time there. The court doesn't care that you own your own dance studio. Court is busy, busy, busy.
And then what happens?
How would you win?
Well, she would win if the court decided that Abby broke the contract by throwing her out and telling her not to come back. And, you know, calling her daughter fat and stupid and stuff, allegedly.
Your daughter wore a costume, took a picture in it, and you're claiming that you don't need to pay for it?
Well, based on that, the mom would only need to pay for it if she still has the costume. If the costume belongs to the studio and has been returned to the studio, then the mom wouldn't owe for having had a picture taken in it. That's over. That's before Abby kicked her out. Just don't use the picture or whatever. Watch Abby's facial expression here.
That's called theft by deception.
Actually, no, I wouldn't use that in court. There was no deception here. Everything was pretty open and viewed by other people. Theft by deception would be like selling a lemon of a car, or like timeshares, right? Some type of deception. But that was a good try, I guess. Abby looks very happy to be having this conversation. Like, she thinks that she's in the right, and she's very happy about that.
You can use all the words you want to use,
I will.
but it's a breach of
Okay,
contract.
it's time for you to go.
Well, right. Have a nice day.
I really like the way that the mom handled this. It looks to me that perhaps the mom had already spoken to a lawyer, and this was like her last attempt at resolving this out of court. I don't know that they ever went to court. They would have. It might have prevented later things. Not that it's this mom's responsibility, but if the mom really had already paid, then there would be no reason to go to court. I guess we'd have to ask Melissa at the front desk, who paid for the picture, I guess. Then we see Abby in an interview, again talking about the mom's job, which is completely irrelevant to this situation, but we do get an iconic line, which may or may not have inspired JoJo's karma.
Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not disrespect Abby.
I really don't see how this mom lied or stole, but okay, let's move on, shall we? It's the next day. It's 3 days till competition.
Okay, ladies, this is your pack list for the competition. Now, I didn't get into too much detail since you guys go away all the time.
Let's look at this pack list. Specifically, think pink. So like anything pink? That's not very specific, but I like to think pink, so that works. Also, animal print / safari. I think this is important for her in a little bit with the costumes, but it seems as though Abby wants all of them to be in animal print at some point. Now, on Back to the Bar, this episode is not on YouTube, it's only on their Spotify, but Christi and Kelly talk about that. This episode, 7, is the first episode of the, this is a real show now. So they were actually going on a road trip tour type thing. So this pack list is not for one weekend. This pack list is for 6 weeks, for the rest of the season. So we don't know when Abby wants them to all wear animal print, so let's hang on to that. Also, I think it's a little funny that the list says toiletries and shoes, like they need to be reminded to bring shoes and toothpaste for a 6-week road trip. And finally, the you bring it, you carry it is kind of funny. I feel like it's Abby's own little callback to episode 1, when Holly was going to carry one of Nia's luggages. How dare. And also this shows us that Abby is the one who tells them to bring all of this stuff that they have to carry by themselves. Let's see how the moms respond to this pack list.
When we go to a competition, everyone involved is representing me, Abby Lee Miller.
Well, yes, that's true, but they are also representing themselves. And Abby is also representing the Abby Lee Dance Company, and therefore Abby is also representing them.
So I want my girls to look professional, and I want the moms to look professional too.
Well, okay, I think they all dress pretty well. But I guess if they have like events and things that they have to go to, in addition to the competitions, then that makes sense that Abby would want them all to dress a certain way. That's okay.
Kathy, the reason we do this is so it's easy for me to find the kids.
Well, okay, they should be all together. Also, why is it now the kids? And a second ago, they were my girls. They're only my girls when they look professional?
When I'm traveling with children and I need to get them quickly, I want to take a photo, somebody shows up, and then they all look good for my program book.
Ah, the real reason Abby wants them all dressed the same, so that it looks good for randomly taken photographs with somebody who shows up. That's okay, I guess. That makes sense. As long as it's clothes they all already have and no one has to go to the mall real quick to get matching professional outfits.
I'm all about themes, but these little themed outfits are just for the children. And
Oh, no. They're for everyone attending.
Oh, so Clara has to wear animal print too? That might be going a little far. Or does Abby just mean herself and Gianna and the girls and the moms? Does Abby tell Gianna what to wear? Did she get a pack list?
Hold the phone for just a moment, because we've already went shopping and we've bought some fabulous clothes, and I'm seeing here black and white nighttime, and I'm going to assume that you're talking about banquets.
Banquets? That's fancy.
And I have a fabulous fuchsia formal that I'm going to be wearing, and she has green.
Uh-oh, there was no fuchsia and green on the pack list.
I'm sorry I can't follow Abby's rules. When Candy Apples steps out, we do it in style. We don't dress like the help.
Well, that's a little harsh, and a little more harsh now that I pointed out the pack list says animal print / safari. Watch Kelly glance at the camera here.
You do remember that I am not the team player.
Being a team player and packing specific clothing items are different?
And we will be packing at home. And what we pack is what we're bringing.
Watch Abby's facial expression here.
This may not be
Do
totally
not make
conducive.
your child an outcast.
Oh, we would love for Vivi to blend.
Yes.
But the reason why we're here is to stand out.
I understand why Abby wants them all to match, but I don't think not matching makes one an outcast. But it's pretty clear that Kathy does not want to be part of this team, and I understand why that might upset Abby. I feel like maybe Kathy really isn't part of the team. She's part of the show. She signed a contract with the show, but maybe she never signed Abby's contract, which would mean that she wouldn't have to dress the same as the team. But that would call attention to that fact, so I guess we'll see what happens. Watch Kathy's glance at Vivi here.
I like to say that I'm smarter than the average bear, and I like to pull the rug out from underneath them and take their focus away from what's going on so that I get my way.
So Kathy's making a big deal about the pack list because she wants something else? What else could she want? To get off this team? Maybe she doesn't want Vivi and all these random people's pictures that Abby said. Or maybe it's because this pack list is really for 6 weeks, and maybe Kathy doesn't want to agree to a 6-week road trip.
All right, everybody understands? Yes? Mothers, I have your word. Kathy?
Oh, well, I'll have to think about it.
Again, Abby saying, I have your word, in a situation where no one is allowed to respond, does not mean that she actually has their word. That's not actual consent. But alright, it's the next day. It's 2 days till competition. We're in the car with Kathy and Vivi. Kathy says, Vivi, do you know what I found out?
At Star Power, they have a costume award, and you have to put your photo in. So I think that we're going to enter your pink costume.
Well, that sounds like fun. Vivi sounds very excited about it. She loves pink.
At Star Power, they have a photogenic award. I would love for Vivi to be able to have the opportunity to model in a costume book, because that's what I did when I was little, and it was a great experience, very exciting, and I think it would be wonderful to know that her picture was going all over the country.
Okay, this was a time before social media as we have now. So if, say, Vivi modeled for a costume book, in theory, only people looking at that costume book would ever see the picture. And costume book sounds like it would only be read by other dance type peoples. So saying that her picture would be going all over the country means something very different back then in the before time, which is kind of scary then too. And Vivi doesn't sound very excited about it, but this is just a photogenic award at the competition. So I guess we can start there for Vivi's modeling career that she wants so much.
You know what else too, Vivi? There will probably be a lot of photographers there.
Okay.
It'll be like you're the glamour girl, okay? That'd be fun. Maybe Mommy can get in a couple shots.
Yeah.
Vivi sounds so excited about this.
My mom wants me to be famous. I don't want to be a model.
That makes me a little nervous for a kid to say that their parent wants them to be famous. Fame is very dangerous. It's not just all, oh look, my kid's picture is in a magazine. I mean, for some people that might be okay, but some people would not like that at all. And Vivi sounds like she's the type who doesn't want to be famous. Now we're at group rehearsals.
All right, girls, the new number that we're going to do for this competition is called Make You Mine. Everybody say that.
Make your mind.
That's a bit provocative of a title, but this dance has already been done.
I want you to go out and I want you to get the older girls' black chairs.
Ah, the black chairs.
This week's group number is entitled Make You Mine. And we used the chairs because the kids had done a Fosse number and they were familiar with working on the chairs.
Wait, the older girls use the chairs for a Fosse number? Have these girls used chairs before? If not, they might need a lot of practice. They bring the chairs in. The chairs appear to have rubber stoppers on the bottoms of each leg, and the chairs are already black, and there's at least 5 of them. Remember this for a later episode. It's very important.
It's high energy, and the kids love the number. They get to dance like teenagers, so they love it.
The kids love dancing like teenagers? I mean, they probably do, but that doesn't mean it's appropriate for them to dance like teenagers. What does that mean, dance like teenagers? Do teenagers dance differently than 6 to 13-year-olds? I suppose they do, but that's why there are age categories. We see some of the rehearsal. Abby is up and counting as they dance, at first. Then she sits down and we get this. It's a very loud correction, and Abby's like shaking her head in disbelief as she says it, but it is specific and explanatory. Abby looks like it's the worst thing she's ever seen. I thought they were doing good. Don't worry, there's more.
1, 2 arms, Nia, 3. Where are those arms? Last night at dinner with your dad. That's what the arms are.
So that's not instructional. What does that mean? Her arms are at dinner? Her arms are fat? What does that mean? Is there some jealousy that Nia went to dinner with her dad last night? That's very sweet that they go out to dinner sometimes. Also, was Nia the only one who didn't have perfect form during this rehearsal? Because that's all we heard. I'm glad that everyone else was doing it right, I guess. Did that sound like barking? Watch Abby's face here as Nia falls after a turn. Nia is trying really hard, but Abby looks so disappointed.
It's so frustrating to watch Nia dance.
Why? She was working really hard.
She makes the same mistakes over and over again.
So fix them. Help her fix the mistakes. If she keeps repeating the same mistake, one would think that maybe she needs help with the same thing. Like she's not getting help. She's getting, your arms are at dinner. How is that going to help her?
Pop up! I want it strong. This is the 3rd time. In 20 minutes, I'm telling you the same thing.
Well, pop up, I want it strong is still not really instructional. What does it mean to pop up stronger? Perhaps Abby should demonstrate. Like, Nia's doing the moves, she's doing what everyone else is doing, but her pop-up is not strong enough. I don't know what that means either, but I'm not a dancer.
I don't know what I'm gonna do about Nia.
Teach her. She's your student. You're the teacher.
If she doesn't step it up, she's gonna blow it for the rest of the girls in the group.
What does step it up mean? What is Nia doing wrong? Why is it only Nia? Everyone else was perfect? It's a rehearsal. Don't we learn the moves and then work on perfecting?
You're the last one, and it was 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 50%.
That's not instructional either. Nia is probably trying 100%. She doesn't understand what Abby is saying because Abby isn't saying anything helpful. Show her. Let her watch someone who's doing it right. Demonstrate it. Explain it. Literally anything more than your arms are at dinner and you're the last one.
One more time, do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's still not sharp enough. It has to come up. Watch it when the next group does it. Ready? Let's go.
Okay, well, that's at least instructional adjacent. You can see that Nia is doing what Abby said. It's just not sharp enough. But what does that mean? How do you pop up sharply? Maybe it will help Nia to see someone else doing it correctly. You can also see here that Nia is getting sad. She's not feeling very confident now. So maybe it is a good time for her to take a break. Then we see Chloe mostly doing the moves. Chloe does look great. She's like performing it. And Nia is sitting there watching. But we don't see Chloe do the specific part that Nia just got told about. So I don't know.
I try to do everything right, but sometimes it's too hard.
Nia does try really hard to do everything right. It's too hard because it's not being explained very well. Or at least that's what we just saw. They seem to already know the routine a little, so we don't know how like the initial rehearsal went. We see a bit more of the other girls doing the routine and Nia watching from a chair with stoppers on it.
5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3.
Nia looks very defeated here. She didn't do anything wrong. She's not sitting out because she's in trouble, but maybe it will help that she's watching. Next, we get costumes.
I have costumes. All right, Nia, you're gonna put this on first, sweetie.
Ah, the costumes that the moms have no say in. They just pay for them and then get surprised. Woo! Now let's remember that earlier in the week, Nia had a leash on during her solo rehearsal, and she was allegedly told to act like a vicious dog breaking free. And here we see that Nia's costume is animal print, like the pack list, animal print. Wait, why is a dog wearing leopard print? Was the solo supposed to be that Nia is a dog, and then the leash was too much, so now she's a leopard? Is she a leopard on a leash?
The costume is darling. It's really like a satire on the drag queen image. And it's over the top, and it's fun, and it's right up Nia's alley.
I appreciate that the camera stays on Abby after she finished speaking to catch her facial expression. To me, it seems this was an interview where Abby doesn't seem like comfortable, like perhaps she had suggested lines there. She doesn't seem to be talking from her own self. I can't even imagine how the interview part about the leash went. We don't see that, so we have to speculate. I think this dance was changed. Like maybe the initial idea of Nia wearing a leash and being a dog was Abby's. And then production was like, how about leopard print instead? But now Nia's solo is a satire of the drag queen image about Abby's friend Laquifa. And why is that right up Nia's alley? Are all drag queens ethnic? No. drag queen and ethnic are totally different.
Put the pants and the crop top and everything else on after that.
I loved my costume for La Rifa. I thought it was amazing.
I also like this animal print costume. It looks cute and comfortable, and it covers most of Nia's body, so that's good. But let's see some of the other costumes.
Chloe, this is you. Again, it's not what I drew. I should have sent the fabric.
What does that mean? Abby drew these costumes, and then someone changed them? The seamstress, or someone else? Who chose the fabric? Then Holly arrives while Abby's passing out costumes.
Hello. Sorry. Hi. Hi.
I arrived just in time for costumes, and it's always interesting to see what Abby will pull out of her bag of tricks.
Because the moms have no say in the costumes, they just pay for them. That makes it sound like Abby chooses the costumes. But Abby made it sound like she doesn't have final say. Then the girls all walk in with their costumes on. The moms talk about sizing and how the girls are getting bigger. Most of the costumes are very pretty. And then there's the animal print costume.
Why is my daughter the only one dressed in animal print?
So these costumes are all different. They're solo costumes, so they're all very different. Nia's costume is cute. It looks comfortable. Nia seems to like it. She feels good in it. But let's remember that earlier this week, Abby had Nia in a leash. But we, the audience, don't see that, and it's left out of this episode. So perhaps Holly is already a little perturbed, and it's not really about the animal print. It's about the leash and the animal print.
Is this a joke?
Can we walk down there?
No, I wouldn't say it's a joke per se. It's more of, well, I guess it depends on how Abby actually feels about Nia, which we can't really know. But that did look like Holly was asking the person behind the camera there. And to that person, perhaps, yes, perhaps this is a joke to them. But it's like joke adjacent, and Holly has no say if she doesn't like the joke. I'm glad they left that comment in because, yes, this does feel very like someone thinks it's funny or something.
And let me see you.
I know Abby's the costume designer or not, but I don't like that way of speaking to the children like they're cattle at an auction or something.
All the other girls get feminine, beautiful, whimsical costumes that aren't typecasting them.
So Holly said the word typecasting. I do think this is a bit more than typecasting, and we don't really know what happened with the leash. So perhaps Holly still thinks this animal print costume also comes with a leash, which is a bit more than typecasting. But don't worry, there's more.
And you know what? I want her in an afro.
Again, the phrasing and Abby's facial expression when she said it. Well, if an afro is part of the costume, why would it be Holly's responsibility to have one?
Do you have one from when we did My Hair Looks Fierce?
So it seems that the girls have done a dance called My Hair Looks Fierce. This is a picture from the dance in a program book. I found this image on the Christi Lucasiak wiki, which I just learned exists. Nia's hair here looks big. So what Abby means is that for this solo, she wants Nia to have big hair. That's not necessarily an afro. In My Hair Looks Fierce, all the girls had big hair. Some had hair pieces. Some were blonde hair pieces. Where are those? Shouldn't Abby have them? But this is not a group dance where everyone has big hair. This is for Nia's solo. So she will be the only one in an afro? So this routine comes with animal print, an afro, and a dog leash.
I was like, let me just pull out my purse. No, I don't have an afro. If not, Penn Shopping Center.
I just changed purses.
I think Holly's reaction here is completely fair. The line about changing purses is pretty iconic. It's a little funny. But like the rhinestoning, it's not Holly's responsibility to finish Nia's costume. Oh, just run down to the mall and buy an afro for this animal print leash dance. I would be upset too. This wouldn't be okay for any student.
Are you kidding me? Oh, I don't have an afro. That's not the Black experience that we know. And there's nothing wrong with Laquifa, the Laquifas of the world, but that's not Nia's experience. It is not my experience. My name is Holly. I'm as far away from Laquifa as you can get. That is not who I am, and that is not who Nia is.
That was very well stated. I think Holly is being very understanding and patient with this solo concept. She shouldn't have to be. This shouldn't even be a solo. Which makes me wonder whose idea this was.
Turn around. Holly wants her daughter to be like every other little girl.
Well, in the sense that Nia should be treated with the same respect as everyone else, then yes, Nia should be like every other little girl. She is a little girl.
Nia has an advantage over everybody else. She can play many different ethnicities, and it's my job to make her capitalize those opportunities. Different is good. She has what it takes, and yet her mom wants her to be like Paige and Maddie and Chloe.
Nia has what it takes to play many ethnicities? What does she have? Abby knows that different ethnicities are different, right? Like it's not white and then everything else, because that's what this sounds like. Because Nia is not white, she can just play anything else. Hooray! No, that's not how that works. And yes, Nia should be treated the same as Paige and Maddie and Chloe, given the same respect and the same opportunities. It's not Abby's job to help Nia with things related to her ethnicity. Abby is Nia's dance teacher. She's supposed to teach Nia to dance.
This is show business. When they're looking for somebody different, they're gonna love Nia. I think these could get a little higher.
Somebody different? What does that mean? They'll only love Nia when they're looking for somebody different? Somebody not white? So here I would like to include this conversation with Abby, Debbie Allen, and her assistant, I think. This happens way later in season 6. This is a bonus scene that's kind of hard to find, but I think it summarizes this really well.
It's not that I don't see color. It never mattered. The only thing that I do is I'm very much, a typecaster. So, I'm using the Color Purple songs for the two sisters that are African American. Because if those kids get hired professionally to work, that's the work they're going to do.
But isn't that seeing color?
I can't believe Abby said the two sisters to Debbie Allen and her assistant. I don't think she meant biological sisters. So Abby thinks that the two sisters will only get professional work if it's in the color purple? Has she never been to a ballet or watched TV? It's not good to be a typecaster. That means that Abby's not teaching all the kids the same. They're not all getting the same dance education. She's a dance teacher, not an ethnicity teacher. Also, since this is the first episode beyond the original contract for the 6 episodes, all contracts should have a grace window. So if this happened within 30 days or so of them signing the 6-year contract, Holly should be allowed to leave. Holly should be allowed to refine the contract. And perhaps she did, and that's why we don't see the part about the leash. I think this is plenty to show what Abby thinks about Nia. And it's very brave of Holly to allow the world to see this. It's important that we see this, so that we learn that this is not okay, and what we can do to be better. Treat everyone with the same level of respect, and teach only what you've been hired to teach, which in this case is dance. Not leashes and afros and animal print. Just dance. Back to this episode, we go to a restaurant with the moms. It's one day till competition.
I can't take all the late night.
I never drink, but after having to buy an afro and seeing that leopard costume, I've about had it.
Don't forget the leash. I think she means the leash part. Well, and the afro. The leopard costume is just like the cherry on top of a typecasted cupcake or something.
But I took a objection to was just about the whole Laquifa number. I never have denied my Black heritage. Very proud of it, but it has to, I don't want to be a stereotypical from the 70s wearing an afro. We're in the 21st century.
I think this was also very well stated. Holly is saying that it's not about being Black. That would be like if the dance was from The Color Purple, which I also would not recommend. I think that's a very adult story. Or say if it was a Rosa Parks solo, then Holly would feel better about the typecasting. But this is not that. This, Holly feels, is like unserious. It's animal print, a leash, and an afro. That doesn't seem celebratory or telling a story. It is kind of like a joke. It's like something you would do for someone's birthday party, not like a serious dance education type thing. And I agree, and Christi seems to agree. Now we're going to hear from Kelly, which has become kind of an iconic interview, but I think her words were manipulated quite a bit. But let's see the first part.
I think Holly's being a little overdramatic. Her daughter's wearing an afro wig. What's the big deal?
So the only part that we actually saw Kelly say is that her daughter's wearing an afro wig, which is a true statement. Well, that's what Abby has requested at this point. We also don't know who knows what about the leash. We know that Melissa was there and saw it, but Melissa works at the front desk and is there at the studio all day. So we don't know if Kelly knows about the leash at this point, which I think is what really upset Holly, not the afro wig. It does look like Kelly is annoyed at dinner, but we don't really know what she really thinks.
She's gonna have him picking cotton, might as well, or a scarf on her head and being Aunt Jemima. I don't want that.
Did you just say picking cotton?
Well, that's what it's like.
Oh.
It's the same type of thing. Swing low, swing chariot, and just let's pick some cotton or something. We have worked so hard to get beyond that.
So I think if Kelly is annoyed at this situation, it's not at Holly, it's at Abby. Kelly probably knows how Abby feels about Nia. You know, Kelly has been with Abby for 97 years. She knows how Abby is. And this is kind of silly. It shouldn't be happening. They should be talking about dance. This is about dance class. And it is annoying that it always seems to turn into something not related to dance.
For me, it's very political. Politics is all about who has the power and who has the control. I don't have the power to choose Nia's music. Abby gets to choose that. And Abby has the control and the power in depicting how she wants Nia portrayed.
Also very well stated. This is what this is about. How Nia is portrayed on stage and on TV. Holly wants Nia portrayed as a dancer. Abby wants Nia portrayed as... I don't know.
So I'm really frustrated. I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hang in there much longer.
At this point, if Holly wants out, she should be allowed out. This is way beyond the realm of dance teacher. Abby is a dance teacher. Nia is a dance student, just like everyone else. Well, now it's competition day, and we're getting on the bus. Well, not Kathy and Vivi, they're driving.
Bus driver! How come you came this way? You're throwing everybody around back here.
Oh, he knows where he's going. You always get there.
We're heading to the Star Power competition in Connecticut, and this is going to be tough. The judges are going to be looking for technique, of course, showmanship, costuming, and passion. So when the dancers step out there, they're truly passionate about their craft and what they're doing.
Passionate about an afro, animal print, and a leash? Costuming. Are leashes on children allowed at dance competitions? I don't think that should be allowed. Maybe it was the competition that said no to the leash. Does Nia's solo show Abby's passion for dance? Or does it show Abby's passion for something else? So Abby takes roll on the bus as it's already moving and discovers that Kathy and Vivi are not on the bus.
Kathy's too good for us. She gets to ride in the Mercedes while we're on the bus. Who does she think she is? We all know it's a C-class.
Ah, some more elitism. We were almost out of that from Abby. Does Abby not have a Mercedes?
Women at the wig shop thought I was crazy, getting an afro for a 10-year-old girl.
Oh, you ended up getting one?
I found one.
Is it blonde?
That would have been good.
It's a little funny.
There are lots of wigs I would like to choose from for Nia. I would never select an afro wig. I would like for Nia to be beautiful and not stereotyped as someone with an afro from the 70s.
I don't think it's necessarily about the wig, it's about the portrayal. Holly wants Nia to be portrayed as a dancer, not a stereotype that has nothing to do with dance. Then we get this cute scene of Paige and Abby on the bus.
I thought you liked gummy worms.
Aw, it shows the sweet side of the relationship between Abby and the girls.
Getting sleep on a bus with a bunch of kids just doesn't work.
Oh, does it not? Can you not get sleep on the bus? But it was possible for the girls to sleep on the bus instead of going home the night before a competition a few weeks ago. So it's not possible to sleep on the bus for 5 hours? So now we're at the competition. We're only halfway through this episode. We hear Christi say that this is a big competition for them and the girls need to do really well.
Moms, they're running 30 minutes ahead. So get the makeup on as quickly as possible so that we have time to run this number. That's more important.
What's more important than what? Running the number is more important than the makeup and hairs? Oh, that's interesting. Then we see a little scene with Maddie and Melissa.
Maddie, how's it feel? Does it feel good?
Not really.
Do you have to go to the bathroom? Maddie has to go to the... No, Maddie, listen to me. You have to cooperate with me.
The screen says that Maddie said, but it's not right, like her hair wasn't done right. She's a perfectionist, as we know. Apparently, Melissa was asking Maddie about going to the bathroom because there were times when they weren't allowed to go to the bathroom and weren't allowed to drink water so that they wouldn't have to go to the bathroom. This is not okay. It's not okay for your job or your school to not allow you to drink water or not allow you to go to the bathroom or punish you for doing so. This can cause really serious health issues. So don't do that. It's okay to go to the bathroom and to drink water. So I understand why Melissa is asking about it, but I also understand why Maddie would get frustrated with Melissa talking about it in front of people.
We had 30 minutes to get our kids ready. They had to be stretched. We had to put French twists in their hair, fake eyelashes, all their makeup. It was crazy.
So we're hearing that they are rushed in the green room before the competition. Why did they only have 30 minutes? I don't think it was the bus driver. It seems intentionally organized that way, so that everyone is stressed out and we get clips like this.
Maddie, you have one number to dance, and that's it. You're gonna deal with it. Be a grown-up. Let's go. Sick of this attitude.
Maddie was just putting her earrings in. I didn't see a whole lot of attitude from Maddie right there.
I can't deal with Maddie's attitude. She's 8 years old, and sometimes she thinks she's 16.
She was just putting earrings in.
Maddie, you need earrings first. No, Maddie, calm down, please.
Maddie seems okay to me. She's just getting her stuff on. They only have 30 minutes. I don't know which earrings she was supposed to wear, but in this situation, with all the pressures and things put on Maddie, I think she should be allowed to choose her own earrings. Like, give her something that she can have control over.
I'm a perfectionist. I don't like to be rushed when I'm doing my makeup and hair.
That's fair. They only have 30 minutes. There's not enough time to argue about earrings. Abby hates this last-minute crap.
Guess what? Do you want to go home? You're never like this. Stop it.
She's not doing anything wrong. Yeah, she's not like smiley and perky, her perky Maddie self. But to me, it looks like she's preparing for stage. Like she's getting herself in the zone, as they say.
Melissa's always freaking out on Maddie before the competitions. I feel bad for Maddie.
You could see on Kelly's face in the dressing room that she was like, whoa, what's going on? Like Maddie wasn't doing anything wrong.
Maddie, go do some turns and see if that hair moves, please.
That almost sounded like Abby was trying to help. She could see that Maddie was getting frustrated, so she told her to go do some turns to remove her from the situation, kind of.
What was that about? What was that?
Well, don't call attention to it now. Maddie just threw her makeup thing a little. It's fine. Let her get in the zone.
Melissa is always on time, always prepared, always where she needs to be. And when that doesn't happen exactly as she planned, then she gets worked up, and that in turn works up her daughters.
Ah, so perhaps Melissa is a perfectionist.
Girls, shh, stop. There are 1,500 numbers, okay? You're the first thing they're gonna see from Abby Lee Miller. Do you understand how important it is?
So are there other groups from ALDC performing at this competition today? But this group dance is the first one that will be seen? But Melissa said that Maddie only has one dance to do? Did she mean today? Because Maddie has the group dance and a solo.
Be respectful backstage when you come off the stage. I don't care if it was good, bad, or otherwise. You act like it was the best time you ever danced. Do you understand me? This is what we have been working for all season. Today is what matters. Right now in 10 minutes. Do you understand?
I do agree that you should be respectful backstage. You should always be respectful. And that when you get off the stage, you should act like it's your best performance. I agree with that. We hear Melissa say that every single competition is
really important to us because each competition is one step closer to nationals.
Ah, yes, the nationals. So the group performance starts.
Why is she so far stage left? Nia missed a big glissade. I corrected her over and over, and she still did it wrong. No excuses.
Okay, well, the corrections that we saw were do it sharper and your arms are at dinner. Did anyone demonstrate how Nia was supposed to do it? Or did Abby just yell at her that it was wrong over and over? If it was over and over and she still did it wrong, then she didn't understand. She needed actual help with it.
During the Make You Mine performance, Nia was a little off. I just hope Abby's not too hard on her.
Yes, I hope that too. Perhaps Nia needs more training in whatever she was off on. Then we get this scene of the girls after the performance, where they're supposed to be acting like it was their best performance ever. We don't really hear anything, but there are captions on the screen. You can see that Maddie is upset. Paige looks a little upset too. The captions sort of imply that Maddie said we were terrible and Paige said I'm really embarrassed. I don't know. I don't think either of them would have said I'm really embarrassed. But I don't know. They could put any captions they wanted to there. But it is clear that Maddie is upset.
Maddie's really upset right now. The group just performed and she doesn't feel that they performed to the best of their ability.
Well, that happens, but they were specifically instructed to be respectful backstage and to act like it was their best performance. Melissa seems almost proud that Maddie's upset about this group dance.
Girls, I'm talking to you right now because I'm disappointed.
In what? What was so disappointing? They did the dance. It was a dance. There were some minor mistakes, but it was kind of a weird dance with the chairs and all. The chairs with the stoppers on their feet.
And why were you crying?
I got hurt a little. So
You got hurt a little? What happened?
I jumped off my chair. I twisted my ankle.
Okay.
Well, that happens. They shouldn't really be jumping off chairs, but Maddie did a good job. If she really hurt her ankle and kept dancing, that's good. I do believe her that she may have jumped and landed on her ankle weird.
Maddie was upset because Nia did not do well, but she told Abby she was upset because she twisted her ankle.
Melissa again seems proud that Maddie, I guess, covered for Nia, but in this situation, I don't think that's a good thing. And pretending that Maddie got hurt is not the solution. But I guess in the moment, standing there talking to Abby, I understand why Maddie said what she said. It is nice of her to try to protect Nia, but it wasn't necessary.
Nobody knows the dance.
That's right. Nobody in the audience knows the dance. The judges might not even have noticed. Maybe they just needed more time to run the number before they went on stage, instead of arguing about earrings. and only having 30 minutes.
You should go to the bathroom.
It doesn't look like Maddie needs to go to the bathroom, but I understand why Melissa said that too. I wonder if they were given more bathroom access after Melissa said it multiple times in this episode. They wouldn't want people to think that children were being held from water and bathroom. That would look bad. Alright, now we go to the costume photogenic award thing with Kathy and Vivi. Notice how Vivi is walking at the top of the stairs area and then at the bottom.
Does that say registration? Yeah. I am inquiring about the photogenic award.
At the top of the stairs, Vivi was like skipping. She seems excited. At the bottom of the stairs, she was not as excited.
I entered Vivi in a photogenic contest. We haven't had the opportunity to do the costume catalog thing yet.
Well, that's okay. Vivi doesn't want to be a model.
Now I got a mess going on here. I thought that this would be a good start to maybe start to pursue something like that.
That's fine, I guess. We can try it once, and if Vivi doesn't like it, then we don't have to do it again. We see Kathy getting Vivi ready for her pictures. Vivi says that Kathy's hands are cold, so Kathy says that she won't touch her anymore. It's kind of cute.
I feel like the eyelashes are drooping. Do I need to staple your eyebrows up?
No, we don't tell kids that we'll staple them.
Don't look scared. Don't look like somebody's goosing you.
She was doing good.
I'm feeling like you're a bum model. Come on, look alive.
Well, she doesn't want to be a model.
Look at me and smile.
Big smile, big, big, big. Get it, click, smile.
That's a beautiful smile. Vivi's doing a great job.
Ugh, you're just gonna look over your shoulder. She should have her hands down.
Look at me and smile.
That's good feedback. Over the shoulder, hands down, look at me and smile. Those are all specific and informative.
Okay.
Okay, that's cute. Don't change your face. Freeze your face. You look like a pug.
It's a little funny that Kathy said don't change your face and Vivi changed her face. It's hard to hold a pose, especially when you don't really want to. And then Kathy saying that she looks like a pug? What does that mean? Pugs are cute. Then Vivi starts doing her own thing.
Oh, shh. Now she's running the show.
Well, maybe that's good. It would be better if Vivi has fun with it.
I went in with the attitude that I was going to do all of the posing for Vivi, and Vivi just took off. She just went off on her own.
That's good, though. Vivi's trying to have fun.
Big smile. I was amazed because she really started to perform, and she was doing cute little poses, and she was coming up with ideas all on her own.
That's great. Maybe she was having fun with it. That should make for better pictures.
What do you want to
Just do whatever you feel like.
I've just been fired.
Well, that looked like a good session. It was mostly relaxed. Vivi went off on her own and did her own thing, and it did look like she had a little bit of fun with it, so that's great.
It's very important that the girls win for their group numbers. They win all the time for their solos. That's easy. It's much more difficult to do a group routine. Everybody has to be in sync, timing issues, spatial awareness, everybody on the same count at the same time. When your group wins, you've won.
Wait, who wins all the time for their solos? They all do? That's interesting. I mean, that's great that they all win with their solos. This is kind of a new group still, at least dancing together as a group. So that makes sense that the group numbers would be harder. And yes, everyone has to be on the right timing and such in a group number.
Your second place world champion today is Make You Mine, number 128.
So the group got second. Second place is great. Second place world champions, that's pretty good. But it's not good enough for Abby.
Our girls definitely deserved first place. We were totally shocked.
Your girls deserve nothing. Wait, what? Second place is great. They did great. Well, now it's time for solos. Nia is doing Holly's makeup. Paige, Chloe, and Brooke are on the floor looking at costume stuff, it looks like. And we go to Maddie and Melissa.
Let me see. I just want to tell you that Bobcha would have been so proud of you. You know, her and I were close like you and I.
except we didn't fight like you and I fight. Because you're too much of a perfectionist.
It's nice to say that Maddie's grandmother would be proud of her. That's great. But saying that Melissa and Maddie fight, well, Maddie's 8, so I don't think that really counts as a fight. Fighting is like bad and a big deal, like yelling and punching and that kind of stuff. Does she mean like the arguing about earrings earlier? Is that what Melissa calls a fight? I think labeling that as a fight could put the wrong impression in a child's mind. What if they then hear someone yelling, like actually fighting? How do they interpret that? And then because you're too much of a perfectionist, that makes it sound like Maddie is the reason that they fight? Like it's Maddie's fault because she's a perfectionist? She's 8. She's a kid. Anything that's too much is not Maddie's fault. It's not Maddie's fault that they fight. What do they fight about? Like, what's an 8-year-old's fight look like? She just wanted to choose her own earrings. That's not fighting. Watch Maddie's face here.
But she meant so much to me. She was my best friend like you and I are. That's why you remind me so much of her.
I know this is an on-camera conversation, but it has to be a little confusing to Maddie. Her grandma's proud of her. She fights with her mom because she's too much of a perfectionist, but she's her mom's best friend, and she reminds her mom of her grandma. So her grandma was a perfectionist too, but she didn't fight with Melissa? Maddie's face here and the way she tried to breathe deeply without moving too much. She knows this is important to Melissa, but it's a lot of pressure. Like, what is Maddie supposed to think and feel right now as she prepares for her solo that's dedicated to her grandma?
She loved angels, you know. And when she died, I took her hat. You know, the angels that we always put on, but this is the most special angel. This was her favorite little angel. So let's pin it on you, okay?
It looks like Maddie is trying really hard not to cry. I understand this is a special solo and it's really important to Melissa, but this isn't quite the mood that Maddie needs right now. She's under a lot of pressure in general. She has to be a perfectionist because that's what her mom keeps telling her that she is. She has to make her grandma proud. She has to honor the angels. It's a lot for an 8-year-old. And just because she doesn't like push back against it or something, doesn't mean that she's really old enough to handle this type of pressure. And we know that Maddie likes her costume and everything to be perfect. And putting a pin on her costume, like you can feel that Maddie isn't really comfortable with that. Now she's going to worry about the pin while she's dancing. She can't lose it or damage it. And apparently, Maddie did get a little hurt from the pin being there.
My mom wore this pin on her hat every day when she had cancer, and she would have loved to see my kids dance the way they dance. And giving this pin to my daughter means the world to me.
It's a really sweet sentiment, and it means a lot to Melissa, but it's a lot of pressure to put onto Maddie.
Do you know whenever you go on stage, I always pray for her to be on stage with you?
I totally believe that my mom is always with my daughter when she's on stage. Always.
Do really good today, okay? And think of her when you're on stage. She'll be there with you. I love you so much.
It's really very sweet, it is. But Maddie needs to concentrate on her solo and remembering all the moves and doing her best. It's nice to say that your grandmother would be proud of you, but to ask her to think of her grandma while she's dancing, I don't know, it's very heavy stuff for an 8-year-old. Not that it's bad or wrong of Melissa to say these things to Maddie, it's very sweet, but it's also a lot of probably confusing pressure for a child.
I'm doing this dance angel for my grandmother Bobcha, and I hope she is proud and I know that she is watching me from heaven.
We don't know if that clip was filmed before or after her performance, but now Maddie not only has to win with this solo, but she also has to honor her grandmother with it. It's a lot of pressure. But Maddie performs her solo. It's beautiful. She does a great job.
I never get tired of watching Maddie dance. She always brings tears to my eyes.
Do you tell Maddie that? I think that part we just saw when Maddie was on the floor might be when the pin hurt her. She was right on that spot where the pin was.
Maddie did her solo so wonderful today. I'm so proud of her, and Bobcha would be proud of her too.
Maddie did a great job. It was a beautiful performance with a beautiful song and a beautiful costume. She did great. We go back to the dressing room. Kelly is working on sewing something for a costume for today, right now.
All right, my thing's all. Look at my sewing. Look, it's like all. It's because I'm rushed.
Oh, the way that Christi is wickedly brushing Chloe's hair. Why is Kelly rushed? Is she still trying to make a costume for today? Abby hates this last minute crap. But here we are again, making a costume rushed because it's last minute.
Look, this actually says for the style, 70s party afro. Should have seen the woman at the store. Is that for you? It's offensive that Abby asked me to go out and buy an afro wig. Why is she asking me? I think it's very stereotypical.
It is stereotypical, absolutely. And Abby knows that. Abby's being stereotypical on purpose. Why? To try to teach Nia all the ethnic dances? You know, the ones with the afros, leashes, and leopard print, those ethnic dances?
Why she's always depicting this Afro-American looking thing that...
I know.
Yeah.
And these
And
more than
why
that.
why the wig?
Melissa, everyone is more than a stereotype. But yes, why the wig? Does the wig really help convey the routine? This routine is about afros? At least My Hair Looks Fierce was about hair, so it made sense for the routine that everyone had big hair. How does big hair help this routine?
Nia's solos have appeared to be going in a particular direction. The solo that she's now doing, she's got an afro wig on, and she's portraying Laquifa, somebody.
It's a little funny that both names Kathy said there are names of famous people, or infamous, I guess, with this Laquifa person anyway.
And I feel bad. There's so many cute things that she could do, you know?
I know.
It's almost starting to be not politically correct.
I think it's noteworthy that Holly did not respond to that because Kathy is right. This is not politically correct, this solo of Nia's. But I think Holly didn't want to agree with Kathy in front of Nia, so she just didn't respond. We know that Nia likes her costume, so Holly is trying really hard to not say anything that would discourage Nia, but I think she agrees with what Kathy is saying here. Is Abby not in the room for this conversation either? Where does she go while they're all in the dressing room doing things last minute? Is she avoiding the dressing room for some reason?
Holly is a little hysterical over this, I think. I think that this is starting to really play and wear on Holly.
I think you're right.
Don't you let that affect you, because you know what? You are gonna go out and just smash it.
Right. See?
See, you're gonna kill it.
That was nice encouragement. I don't like the phrasing. I don't think Holly did either, but it was nice of Kathy to encourage Nia.
You could be one of my dancers.
Ah, there it is. I think Nia would do well as a candy apple. That would be weird. But I think that Kathy would give her cute stuff to do that wasn't always a stereotype. Now here's the rest of Kelly's iconic interview that I think was highly manipulated.
I think Nia does get typed with her numbers, but everybody does. Brooke has done an acrobatic routine since she was 6 years old. She's never been given anything else. And there's many other things Brooke could do. Like, Brooke could do a lyrical number, but Abby just doesn't give it to her because she's typed as an acro.
So we don't see Kelly say the first part where she mentions Nia specifically. We don't see her until she talks about Brooke. I think someone specifically asked her to talk about Brooke there. I don't think that Kelly just on her own compared Brooke to Nia. We can see that Brooke not ever getting a lyrical is not the same as Nia wearing a leash, animal print, and an afro. Those are very different. However, the idea that Abby types kids is clear. It sounds like Abby finds something she wants each kid to do, and then only ever gives them that to do. They should all try all kinds of dances. None of them should be typed or pigeonholed into one type of dance. That would not make for a well-rounded dance education. I understand why people get upset with Kelly for that interview, but I don't think she made that comparison completely on her own. But that's not the point anyway. This is about Abby and how she chooses to have her students portrayed, because it's all up to Abby. The moms have no say, clearly. Because Kelly is also frustrated with the typing. I feel like the other reason this is important to Kelly is because acro is very hard on the body, and Brooke's body is already starting to push back. She's in pain all the time, it seems. And yet she still gets an acro dance every time. And that would be frustrating to a parent. No, it's not the same thing at all as what's going on with Nia right now, and shouldn't be compared. But both situations are frustrating, and both are decided by Abby. So who should we be upset with?
I felt that was put in an awful situation.
You were, and it was on purpose. Those feelings are valid. But what to do about it?
I don't want to pull her from a dance. She's worked hard. She deserves to be in that dance. At the same time, I don't feel comfortable with her being on stage dressed that way.
I feel like Kathy actually really does understand this, maybe more than the other moms do. Kathy would feel the same way if it was Vivi, who's being stereotyped because of her appearance. So I think that Kathy's feelings and comments here are genuine. She really is also uncomfortable with this. Holly should have a say in what her child wears on stage, but she doesn't, or she feels like she doesn't. She feels like there's nothing she can do about it, and that has to be really hard for her. Nia has worked hard on this solo, and she should perform it, I guess. At least the leash is gone. Yay.
All of the girls are either doing a solo or a duet here at Star Power this week. So they need to make sure the technique is in check, the legs are straight, the feet are pointed, and they bring their own personality to the routine.
Nia's solo is about a vicious dog breaking free. There's nothing vicious about Nia at all. So, what? Next we see some quick clips of Kenzie and Vivi's duet. It's cute, they did great. And Brooke's acro routine, she does great. And Paige's solo, which also looks acro-y, she does great. And Chloe's solo, I like Chloe's costume for this one. She also does great. We saw a lot more of Maddie's solo than the other dances, but I guess that's okay. It was like a tribute dance. We have one solo left. But first, we have to find out the judging of the photogenic contest that Vivi was entered in.
I entered Vivi in the Miss Photogenic contest, and we took some fabulous pictures. I just hope that those judges know what they're doing and that they pick the right girl, and it's Vivi, of course.
They did take some fabulous pictures. Vivi did a great job posing. I'm sure the judges will do a great job judging.
Too much like she's on stage instead of just taking a photo of her
It's
beauty.
cute. No, it's cute.
It is cute, but she's about to go into musical theater.
I absolutely think she's got on some like stage makeup.
Yes, she does. It's
Yeah.
totally about to go on.
And I think that's like reinforced eyebrows and eyelashes, as a matter of fact.
And it's kind of blurry.
Yeah, it's actually not the best quality picture either.
She's got a costume on, unless of course she wears sequins on a daily basis.
And it's not
Which I
centered.
do, but that's okay.
I know you do.
Yes.
It's not centered.
Not good lighting.
Photo.
Okay, this is a no.
Yeah, not today.
Okay, great. Moving on.
I feel like these things aren't usually filmed, this judging part, so I think these judges did a good job of being entertaining because they were being filmed, but also remaining respectful to the contestant and the contest. Their critiques were specific and based on what the contest was about, which apparently was more of a natural photo thing. What's it called? A candid photo? Not like a full makeup and costume photo. So it doesn't sound like Vivi's going to win, and that's okay. Then we see the judging of the solos, I guess?
For the title of Petite Miss, here is the Mohican Sun.
Watch Melissa's hands here.
Congratulations.
Melissa's using sign language again. We don't see Abby here, so I can't say for sure that Abby has seen Melissa use this sign. It looks like Gianna saw it this time, but this is the sign for I love you in sign language with the thumbs out, which is very sweet that Melissa showed it with both hands to Maddie when she won, but this is very important for later. So Maddie wins first place and gets a crown. That's wonderful. It was a great performance.
Maddie has 6 crowns now, and her goal is to make it to the double digits.
Well, that's wonderful for Maddie. She works really hard, and that's a good goal to have. I believe she'll get there to the double digits for crowns. So Maddie walks out with her giant trophy that's bigger than she is. Everyone congratulates her, and Abby says something interesting.
Sometimes less is more. You like that?
I'm not quite sure what Abby means there either. Less is more. It's a popular phrase. It's sometimes true. But what does Abby mean? What was less about Maddie's dance? Did it have less turns in it or something? It looked similar to her other dances. Maybe Abby means something else? We didn't see too much of the other solos to compare it to. Did she mean that Maddie's costume was simple? I guess it kind of was. It was pretty, but it didn't have a whole lot of... I don't know. Also, it looks like Abby kissed Maddie on her forehead. Is that weird? For a teacher to kiss a student's forehead after a win? It seems weird to say, but maybe it's okay. Melissa saw it and was okay with it, seemingly. Obviously, I don't know anything about anything, but it doesn't look to me like Maddie understands what Abby meant by less is more. She smiles, but it doesn't look like, oh yeah, you're right. It's more like, oh, well, thank you. It does look like Maddie glances at someone, but that could be anyone. I don't think any of the students were over there to that side. They were all in front of her, behind Abby, so I don't know. So before we go back to the photogenic contest, there's a shot of like a computer screen with a picture of Nia from her solo that we haven't seen yet, with the option to view prices and order this image. But the person standing at the computer is not Holly. So does this mean that anyone who attends this competition can order photos of any performance? Is that weird? Seems a bit weird to me. These are children. You can't just order photos of any child. Okay, now back to Kathy.
We're gonna sit and look at these, okay? Oh, man. Where's all the cute poses that you were doing?
That's a cute photo. Vivi did great. You can't win all the time, and this was Vivi's first photogenic contest, right? So it's okay if she doesn't win.
The photogenic award was nestled in between all of the other awards. I have no idea how many kids were in the contest. They did give 3 places out, and Vivi was not awarded any of those 3 places.
That was a nicer way of saying that Vivi didn't win. Perhaps she got 4th place. Vivi doesn't look like she's really interested in this contest, so it's okay that she didn't win.
I'm gonna tell you what, that photographer, no wonder he's working at competitions, because he's no professional.
Whoa, that's not necessary. He did a good job. Vivi was overdressed for the contest. Well, the judges did say that it wasn't the best quality photo, but, you know, it's just one contest at one competition.
You don't even look like you're smiling.
Why could that be?
I should have had red lipstick on you.
Were the rules of this contest written somewhere?
The photographer was a goof. Despite how bad he was, the judges should have seen the potential in Vivi.
Well, no, she was overdressed. It's not a lack of potential or bad photos. It was about not fitting the description of what they wanted for the winner. Did Kathy not read the rules? Was this a real contest?
These are horrendous. I mean, no, you're beautiful. But these pictures, I don't understand what the guy was doing.
Nice save. Oh well, maybe Vivi will win next time. Or maybe she doesn't want to be a model, and that's okay too. Alright, now the big event of the episode. Nia's solo.
Nia is doing a character piece entitled La Quifa. I need Nia to know the ethnic dances. Those dances come from a heritage, and they have to be done correctly.
Now, to be fair, just like with Kelly's interview clip, we don't see Abby say the first line, the part about this solo specifically. So we can't say for sure that Abby means to call this solo an ethnic dance. But if Abby's trying to say that Nia needs to learn dances that come from her heritage, then shouldn't they talk about her actual heritage? Which could be good. No, they should all learn all types of dance. You don't have to be Irish to learn a jig. You don't have to be blonde to learn a polka. Just because you have dark skin doesn't mean that you need to learn only ethnic dances. And also, what about Vivi? Vivi did the same routine that Kenzie did. Why is that? Why doesn't Vivi need to learn dances from her ethnicity? Just Nia? What's the difference? Why can't Brooke and Paige learn a dance from their culture? What are we even doing here? I don't think this means what Abby thinks it means. I don't think she's quite understanding this concept. Don't worry, we'll see more of this Laquifa person, so let's just hang on to this idea. But circling back to the dog leash, we all agree that this is not okay, yes? It's not just about typing. It's a clear misunderstanding of what ethnicity even is. No ethnicity's children should be wearing dog leashes. That's not a thing. That's not ethnic. That's a dog leash. And that's not okay. Wait, and Abby said that this is a character piece about a character called Laquifa. Laquifa is not an ethnicity, it's a character. Is Laquifa even the same ethnicity as Nia? So Nia's backstage rehearsing her moves, and this poor guy, walks up to her for clarification on the pronunciation of her solo title.
They call me Laquifa.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Because it sounds like a slang term that children shouldn't be saying. So I think the MC and this guy handled it well, and so did Nia. She just pronounced the whole title for him, which is kind of cute, but is this one of the competitions that they get banned from? Because I would understand that. It is kind of a joke. Not like a funny joke, like a mockery of dance.
I'm really apprehensive about this dance. I don't like the song, I don't like the costume, I don't like the theme. Come on, it's called Laquifa.
Holly there looks uncomfortable, disgusted even. She's not angry. She's proud of Nia for working hard on this solo that she was given by Abby. But Holly really isn't okay with this. It's not good. I think we see why this episode is not always in the playlist. So Nia goes on stage and performs this solo. It's a high energy sort of acro solo. She does great. She does look like she kind of enjoys this dance, which we discussed in episode 2 doesn't mean that it's appropriate. Also, Abby is standing behind everyone. Why would she not want to sit next to Holly? There's not a lot of actual dancing in this solo, but Nia performs it great.
It's very disappointing.
Agreed. I'm not mad, just disappointed in whoever allowed this to go on stage, which would be Abby and production. At least the leash didn't make it to the stage.
I came to see a dance and I saw my daughter walking across the stage. Beautifully, it was entertaining, but it was not dancing.
Very much agreed. I think it's interesting that they grabbed this clip from Holly in the building, not later in a pickup, but like right after the dance. And Holly's trying really hard to be professional about it, but she's not happy.
Can I talk to you for a moment? Sure. Outside? Sure.
Uh-oh, how will Abby respond to Holly's concerns?
I have held my tongue long enough, and I'm tired of this. It is time for me to be direct and have a heart-to-heart with Abby now.
Well, that would assume... Never mind.
It's still really unnerving for me that she's wearing a wig. It's 2011, and she's wearing a 70s afro wig. It's the whole idea of this an afro. It just seems so stereotypical.
It is stereotypical, absolutely.
Abby, what Holly is saying is that that's a bad thing. Stereotyping a child is a bad thing. That Abby just admitted was done on purpose. Purposely stereotypical. Watch the change in Abby as this conversation continues.
But just like she's a token black kid.
I wouldn't use the word token. I would use the word affluent and special, and
it doesn't come across that way.
Is not going to school for 4 years for free on the Martin Luther King Scholarship because she's white.
What? First of all, we were talking about Nia. Nia is not in college. Secondly, Abby specifically used the words affluent and special to describe Nia here, thus not understanding what Holly meant by token black kid. I'm glad that Holly used that phrase and that they left it in the episode, because she's 10,000% spot on there. And Abby said, no, she's affluent. That doesn't negate the first part, like, at all. So, is there maybe some jealousy happening here? Could Abby be jealous of Nia's affluence and specialness?
If I send her to an audition, it's gonna be an ethnic call. Nobody else is gonna get to go but her.
Does Abby mean, like, if someone's casting the role of, say, Rosa Parks, only Nia would get to go? And Nia can only go to those ones? That's not how that works. Especially for an audition. Anyone can audition for anything. That's what an audition is.
When they want to hire an African-American kid, they hire an African-American kid.
Well, that's true, I guess, but this isn't an audition. This is a solo that Abby created. Holly's not talking about auditions.
But when I'm thinking of, I'm looking at Nia, all of her routines, it seems, is like a jungle theme. There's a Satan theme.
Yes, allegedly, Nia had a dance previous to the show that had a Satan theme, so let's sit with that for a moment. Okay.
It's like there's a little undertone or nuance that is like a little bit of a negativity that I would just like something that's a little bit more celebratory.
That's fair. Holly's not saying no ethnic dances. She's saying let's be a bit more celebratory with it then. Like a jungle theme might be okay if it was like Nia's the queen of the jungle, which they kind of do later, and that worked out better than Satan and a dog leash. So what does Abby say?
Well, then you pick the music and you hire the choreographer and she can do the number.
No, with all the respect that's due here, that's Abby's job. But Abby's saying, well, if you don't like the Satan theme and the dog leash, go somewhere else. No, actually.
Abby, we don't have to go there. All I'm trying to do... You're going there. No, I'm not. Have a problem.
Holly didn't say there was a problem. She said she would like for these ethnic dances to be a bit more celebratory than a negativity, which is a very fair request.
What I'm giving her works for her movements, for what she does well.
For her movements? Nia moves like Satan? Like a dog? Like she lives in a jungle? What are you saying, Ab?
She doesn't have good feet. She doesn't have great turnout. She doesn't straighten her knee. She's sway back.
Well, fix it then. Abby is the teacher here. If Nia needs help with those things, then fix it. Teach her.
I'm telling you very nicely, pick the music, pick the choreographer.
Abby, come on.
Why would Abby tell Holly to pick a choreographer? Is Abby trying to get Nia off the team? Let's remember that Abby told Holly to pick the music and the choreographer.
Nobody, but not one kid pays me 30 grand a year.
No, according to Christi, they pay Abby 16 grand a year. So Abby wants double? And then what?
And if you do, I will be a lot nicer and I'll sit down and we can have a big conference about it. Well, you know what? But for $250 a month, go somewhere else.
Oh, for double what Christi pays, Abby will be nicer and have parent-teacher conferences? That should be happening anyway. Abby is a teacher. Wait, $250 a month, that would be 3 grand a year. Why is Christi paying 16 grand a year? What's going on here?
First of all, I don't pay $250 a month. That's the first thing. To me, you do. No, I don't.
Where's Holly's money going then? If it's not going to Abby, where is it going? I think we might need to check with Melissa at the front desk. It looks like Abby is looking at someone off camera here. Almost like, oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So the conversation kind of turns because Abby changed the topic to money, and money is a good distractor.
Look how I dress, look where I live, look what I pay. I pay, what, almost $100,000 a year in private school tuition? And you're telling me I can't afford you?
Yeah, watch Abby's face.
I did not say that. I
Pretty much
said,
you did.
no, I did not.
And you have my kid dressed up in an afro? Let's not go there.
Yeah.
I did not say that.
I am
I
highly
said
educated. My
that if
husband is.
every customer
have a lot
paid
of
me
capital.
$30,000 a year,
Okay.
that I would be glad to sit down and have a conference with you.
Think closely about your words.
So as many times as Abby repeats, I did not say that, sort of gives the impression that Abby knows that saying something like that Holly can't afford her would be very bad. So Abby then says like, oh, but if every student paid me 30 grand a year, she would talk to them? That's not how teaching works.
Holly comes from a world of books. She doesn't come from my world.
What world is that? The world of no books? Then how was Nia supposed to look up the word technique?
I am trying to give her daughter more opportunities. Nia could go in for any ethnic role and nail it, but she needs to have the dance background. And Holly keeps fighting it on me.
Holly keeps fighting it on me. That was a bit of a Freudian slip. Holly is fighting a dance background for Nia on Abby, because Abby's job is to give all students a dance background. Holly is fighting Abby's job on her. Holly wants Abby to do her job. How dare. More opportunities. To be Satan in the jungle with a dog leash? That's the dance background that Abby wants Nia to have? To give her more opportunities for roles?
And I'm telling you this with all sincerity. There's a lot of teachers out there. If you're not happy, look through the yellow pages.
Yeah, just leave. Quit fighting my job on me and just leave.
I am fed up with Abby. Abby needs to learn that my daughter's a dancer first. She's not an ethnicity first.
Agreed.